Good evening, everyone. It is Thursday night, September 23rd. Thursday, September 23rd. Can you believe that we're into late September, almost October already? Anyway, you're all tuned in to Nez Says, a place where musicians can get together and inspire each other to play more guitar. With me, as always, is Ben and Ty, and we have a great show tonight. Hey, Ben. Hey, Ty. How are you?
Dave, good to see you and happy Thursday. It's always great to be with you and Ben. We've had a string of great guests with us recently, and tonight is no exception. John Conklin has agreed to jump in and have a conversation with us tonight. And guess what we're going to geek out on? And listen, our good friend and Nez Says alum, Fruitcake Tony, hosted a terrific show Sunday night on his Halenville episode where Nez Says regulars Charles Green and Tony and John interviewed Brad Talinsky and Chris Gill on their new book that's being released the 5th of October. It's called Eruption, Conversations with Eddie Van Halen. And these gentlemen did an exceptional job interviewing these writers. And I found so much interesting things in the interview that I never knew. It just made the anticipation of reading the book that much more for me. So we're here tonight to talk about all things Ed and celebrate him and the impact he's had on all of us, from listening to his music to playing the guitar to all the innovations and inventions that he put on these guitars that we play. So we're so happy John has agreed to be here. John, welcome.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Anytime.
No, it's our pleasure. How did we ask every Ed head that joins us on the show, how did the journey with Van Halen begin for you?
I think, like most people, it began with Kiss. I graduated from Kiss, to Van Halen, and then I never left. My first concert, my sister went to college in upstate New York, and so she said, "Hey, Diver Down had just come out a few months earlier," and I was all into that. And fair warning, in the first album, I had all the albums and stuff like that, but I'd never seen a concert. I was only 14 years old. So she's like, "Hey, Van Halen's going to be at the Syracuse Carrier Dome on October 10th. You want to go?" So I was like, "Yeah, of course I want to go." So we were 14, and back in those days, my parents put us on a Greyhound bus, two 14-year-olds, and let us go, 4 hours away up to Syracuse and to my sister's where she was in college up there. And we went to the concert, and it was just a mind-blowing experience, because that place is about 30,000 people, I think, the Carrier Dome, for concerts it held, and it was just huge, and they were just out of their minds. It was loud, it was just chaos, it was crazy, and that was it. I was just hooked from that night on. So
familiar. Kiss was my gateway too. Yeah. Ben, who was your gateway, Ben?
Yeah, self-discovery wise, music wise, outside of parental influences, Kiss.
Yeah.
Because I remember road trip to Indiana at age 5, staying with my mom's best friend who had a 14-year-old son who was infatuated with Kiss. And I, you're sharing a bedroom with him for 4 days. And I went, what is this? This is like Batman and Eddie Van Halen wrapped up in one, I don't know, like superheroes. And they play guitar too, and kind of linked into that Ace Frehley guy, and that kind of stuck. So yeah, and then shortly thereafter, Van Halen.
Yeah,
Kiss is the gateway drug for all of us Van Halen fans, right?
Especially guys our age, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I like the way Ben phrased that. Outside of parental influence, because my mother had an amazing record collection, and God bless her.
Well, otherwise, it's the Beatles and the Stones.
Exactly. Beatles, Stones, Elvis. I'm in the South, so Southern gospel played a role, right? So my mother was awesome. She did not flip out when I said I wanted a Kiss record,
Right, that's cool.
What was your first Kiss record, John?
I was given, I think, Destroyer and Rock and Roll Over by the girl that lived 3 houses down. She gave it to me. So I was just, that was it. You know, that was a good start. And, you know, it's funny because all these years later, they, you know, a lot of them, like Ace Frehley used to live like a few years ago, about 10 minutes from where I am right now. And so did Peter Frampton, believe it or not. It's just a weird, they actually lived in the same like area, not at the same time, but they were always around in this area. I remember when Ace got in trouble with his DeLorean and the police chase. That was like, I work on that street where the bars were, where he was. So I passed by there all the time. So we had like, you know, and there was a bar in town called the Gemini, and he used to pop up in there. So it was like, it was exciting back then because, but you know, I think Kiss was Van Halen was easy to like and love because they were just always cool. Kiss, you know, as it approached the late 79 dynasty and 80 and 81, 82, it was tough to be a Kiss fan because, you know, they were on the cover of 16 magazine. They weren't like a rock band anymore. It was, you know, it was kind of tough it was a bad period for Kiss, you know.
That's where Kiss was the reason punk rock really hit. You know, they used to say, oh, the long-haired hippies. I'm like, yeah, but they just looked at Kiss and they went, no, we are not doing that.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So
the funny thing that you guys all say that, I mean, Kiss is still very much alive.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
That's the crazy
Just,
thing.
you know,
The Kiss Army was always there.
It's a cult. It's probably the biggest cult in the world.
Would you say they're one of those bands like you seem like you grew out of, but then you grew back into them again?
Yeah.
Within a decade. You know, like you might spend 10 years away, but you get back into it.
It's true. And I haven't seen them in like, you know, since the reunion tour in 96, but I really want, when they come around again for the final go around here in New York, I really want to go because we were talking about it and I've on Tony's show, and it's like, I've seen every member of Kiss and every incarnation except for these two guys. I have to see Eric Singer, and I even saw Mark St. John in one of the 4 complete shows that he played with them. Yeah,
that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, in Poughkeepsie. I was like, so I feel like I got to complete the whole thing and go see with Tommy Thayer and Eric Singer, and then I've had every, you know, incarnation pretty much. I even went to Eric Carr's funeral. That's how nutty I was. You know.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was like I don't know why, but you know. And his parents used to be, there was like a flea market here, and his parents, old Italian people, used to have a little booth set up in there, and they had his drum set that, you know, the one from the I Love It Loud video, that the silver Ludwig. Yeah, sure. They had that there, and they were selling like videos of him and things like that. It was kind of sad. It was cute. They were little, you know, old people selling all the memorabilia and stuff of him. It was kind of neat. And
wow.
I found recently I found where they recorded Rock and Roll Over. It was a dinner theater. It used to be called the Star Theater in a place called Nanuet, across the Hudson River from here. So I found it, and it's I think it's a church now, some type of like like born again Christian church or something like that over there. But it was a beautiful big dinner theater in there, and that's where they actually recorded that album in there. So I took some pictures of it from the outside. It's like, that's kind of cool. But
very cool.
Oh, wow. that is really cool.
Yeah,
you guys know all your introduction to Van Halen. Mine is slightly different. My introduction to Van Halen was my buddy Ben Zeitlin from school, and my friend Kristen Henderson, who is the guitar player in a band called Antigone Rising, all female band. They're pretty well known here up in the Northeast. And if it wasn't for them, summer of '82, listening to Diver Down in a cassette after I had just seen the previous tour a couple months before, I would never have known Van Halen like I do now, because I saw Fair Warning in '81. I was 11, still didn't really know what a Van Halen was, you know, but I liked what I saw. And then I didn't really hear from them again until that summer party at my friend Kristen's house, when it was this band, Back in Black, Rush 2112, and Diver Down on rotating cassettes the whole time. It was like an all-day affair. And then that whole following school year, the big VH would be on everyone's notebooks or binders. So that's how I fell into Van Halen.
Oh, that's a good story.
I always say, thank God my oldest cousin Mark left his copied cassette of Diver Down at my grandfather's place, because he grew up in LA, was a Van Halen fan, was visiting my grandfather who lived here, left the cassette behind. I found it around the same time that, like Jump might have been released, but like looking back, I like Jump now, but it didn't stand out compared to listening to the entire Diver Down album and hearing those deep cuts.
Yeah.
That I went, holy, this is good. Because then I thought they went keyboardy the same way Rush did at the same time. So I was like, it's the 80s. Everyone's buying keyboards.
Yeah. So real quick, before we get into more questions, we got 32 people looking at us. Ben,
let's say hello to these fine folks.
All right. Starting at the bottom to work our way up to the top, because that's what we do. We got the Hitman, Dwight Bailey.
Hey, Dwight Bailey.
Charles Green.
Hey,
Keith Campbell. Great to see Keith here. Thomas Santiago. Nice. Very nice.
Hey,
we
Thomas.
got Frank and Beans, Long Island themselves, the one and only Pete in the house. He says world peace would exist if KISS never happened. We know how you feel about KISS, Pete.
Hey, Pete.
Dan of New Jersey's here.
Dan.
Frank Camerano.
I got to say something about Frank. Frank Camerano has just made, or is almost done with, his Aldo Nova Les Paul with the Explorer headstock.
Can't wait to see it.
Great looking guitar. I'm so psyched to see that.
Brandon B. Squares representing Poughkeepsie, New York. He says, my town. We got Guitar Man 45. He knows about KISS because he grew up in Detroit, Rock City.
Right on.
We got lovely Sandra here. We have
Paul
Sandra here. Chris Bevins here.
Hey, Chris.
The one and only Fruitcake Tony is here with the omelets.
Tony.
Fruitcake. Yeah. So we basically have the Fruitcake Tony members.
Yeah, where's Tom?
With us.
Yeah, cheers. Thank you for being here.
Should be here soon. He should be in here soon. He's usually a little
or he's lurking. He's probably lurking, knowing him. Tim Thomas is here. Great to see Tim here. Some guy named Ned says, never heard of him. Nope. Jimmy Carr. Good to see Jimmy Carr. Let's see, and then scroll.
There's Tom.
3 gamers in here.
Tom is here.
Yeah.
Tom is, in fact, here.
Yeah, that's cool.
It is officially
Papa Blue. EVMEVH. Ernie Ball Music Man EVH. Sure, I dig it. Great guitar.
It's officially a crossover event between Halenville and Ned Says right now.
There you go.
It is. Mark Effects is in the house. Great to see Mark in here.
Yes, hey Mark.
Randy Crooks.
Randy.
He was on my show last Sunday night.
Yeah.
Charles 75N. David Scher.
David.
Nice.
Man, I love David Scher's guitars, man.
Oh, there he is. See, I went to highlight Bent Tom, but then I realized this isn't my channel. I don't have that power.
Oh, yeah. Hang on a second.
There he
is. There it is.
Okay, that was weird because I moved my cursor right over that message, and then you hit it. I went, what? No, you didn't give me the power. Nice. Awesome.
Man, Keith's had some KISS interactions. He said he met Ace a mile up the road in Manhattan. Hey!
Peter!
There he is. My hero.
I don't have audio. Hold on.
Yeah, you do.
We hear you, but he doesn't hear you.
Oh, so why don't you jump out and jump back in?
Check the box he shouldn't have checked, knowing him. And there he goes.
Scram.
Yeah, Keith says that he met Ace a mile up the road in Manhattan a few years later in the 80s. Pissed drunk. Peter and Gigi he met in Belmar. Great people, he said.
Can you hear us now, Pete?
No.
I take that as a no.
Wait a minute. Sure.
Guitar Man 45 said in 74, 75 in school, all he saw was KISS drawn all over the walls, tables, and desks.
Yep.
Keith says Dynasty killed it for him. Now, I'll tell you that I'm probably in the minority, but Dynasty, man, I saw that. That was the second time I saw KISS on that tour, and it was such a production that I was,
one of my favorite KISS songs is Dirty Living.
Well, look, sure know something. I mean, come on. It's I loved it, and I loved the show and the production and
they
all
did
of that.
Soul
And
Cover.
in fact, I did not see a more impressive production until the '84 tour.
Here's now.
I got it all.
All right.
I just wanted to stop this show because this is unsanctioned. I copyrighted John Conklin. And he cannot make any appearances without my permission.
Express written consent.
Yeah, I mean, what the hell are we doing here?
I think John has a license. He's allowed to do it. I think he's licensed under you.
Yes. What's that?
I think John is licensed under you. He can do it.
I'll allow it. What's up, boys? What's up, Ben, Ty, Dave, Johnny?
Good to see you, Pete.
You know.
Yeah, good to see you.
Great
Pete,
to see you, my friend.
your shirt
It's
say,
been way
Pete?
too long.
You know, I'm a mover. I'm a motivator. I make deals happen. I think, Pete, you ought to know that.
I do know that. That fell out of the sky.
Yep.
You see,
Yeah.
Dave's wearing the shirt that got it started for me.
Well, before you go any further, I like to thank Ty for my wardrobe because he doesn't think I'm cool enough with what I wear, so he buys me these shirts so I can come on the show and be a rock star.
That's so crazy.
Because all I have is collared shirts and old man shirts. So I have a really cool wardrobe thanks to my
Come on, Dave. There's nothing wrong with the regular guy look.
Yeah, I have this, and now Ty's like the regular guy tonight. He's like, I work on cars for a living. I work on cars.
Ty, you lost some weight, bro, huh?
Fighting weight, baby. Back to my fighting weight.
Jeez, God bless you.
He's got his girly jeans on too, so so when he's on stage, he looks like a real rock star.
Is it
lost
wrong
it.
to wear your
I
white
found
pants? Is that wrong?
What's that?
I wish I could fit in girly pants.
It's 2021, Dave. Come on, open mind. Open mind.
Listen, I wish that I could fit in a pair of jeans like that. If I could, I would do it.
Hey, there's my lovely sister. in the chat.
John's thinking, what did I sign up for?
Look, we're going to get into it with John in 1 second. So,
You're Junkie 35.
See,
Dave, you're 35?
so you know how I knew Pete was a big AC/DC fan?
How?
Your vibrato. You got that Angus vibrato, man. I said that to you one time. I go, you got a vibrato like Angus Young. He goes, that was the band that started me, man. Right there. See?
What's your AC/DC record, Pete?
It's actually a strange one. It's
don't you dare say Power Ridge.
no. It's
No, clearly it's Flick of the Switch.
yeah, that's there, but to me, side one of For Those About to Rock
Yeah.
is the baddest side one album ever written. From For Those About to Rock, and To Put the Finger on You, and to Let's Get It Up, and to Inject the Venom into Snowball. And yeah, I mean, just based on my age, I'm 48 years old, so I found stuff and had to go backwards.
Mm-hmm.
The first time I saw Van Halen on stage I was in 8th grade. It was Live Without a Net. I saw the videos and MTV and Panama and Hot for Teacher. I mean, that's where I started flying. I was in junior high, for Christ's sakes.
Right.
So, but
Real quick before we go on, John was talking about Pete's vibrato. Now, normally I would not say this on social media, but I feel I have to. When I first met Pete, I told Pete that, oh my God, you're one of the best guitar players I've seen in a while, but your vibrato sucks. and I got to tell you, his vibrato still sucks. No, I'm just kidding. It's fantastic. Pete has the package now. He's got everything that you need to have as a guitar player, and it just the way he has improved his vibrato. He's the real deal. Pete is the real deal.
Thank you, David.
Yeah, pizza.
That's fast,
Great
a
guitar
fast
player.
kind of vibrato. It's like Gear Junkie says, Angus has the BB King vibrato. You got that little fast kind of vibrato.
Well, fast, but the way it used to be when I said he needed to work on it, it was fast and like I can't say this on social media because it's kind of a G-rated show, but it's like a 12-year-old boy making love for the first time. You know, like that. But really amazing improvements. He's got it all now. He's done. He's good.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
You know, speaking of blues vibrato, you know, John, I thought that was a really interesting piece of conversation that y'all had in your interview with the writers the other night, when you were really talking about some of the conflict that seemed to exist publicly between Clapton and Van Halen, and how Brad defended Clapton's point of view, right, saying that Clapton's looking at a blues-based player in the purest way, and he didn't recognize Brian May or Eddie Van Halen as being bluesmen at all. But us as rock players, you know, we take away quite a few things from Eddie, Angus, Slash when we're talking about the blues, right? I mean, those are big blues influences for us as children of the
Absolutely.
80s.
I mean, there's no denying if you listen to a Cream record on and you hear, you know, that's the blueprint for a lot of Eddie's playing. You know what I mean? So it's in there. And my whole point about that was I think Ed was a little butthurt when Clapton said that this guy's my hero, and it's like we're doing a tribute kind of thing to him on this album, and he's, you know, basically telling us that we suck. So I think Ed was like, you know what? Well, you sucked after Cream ended. I think that was kind of like, you know.
Well, you know, I like the jab kind of back and forth, you know, when Clapton said, yeah, he's not a good blues guy, and Van Halen quipped, well, you're a lousy teacher.
That's it. Exactly.
You know?
Yeah, that was a great line.
Well, you know,
But,
blues isn't just clean guitar played slow. It's blues just means heartfelt to me.
Exactly.
You know, I don't care if you play with the most gain you possibly can on an amp. If you're playing with heartfelt and it's not just technical jargon, it's the blues. You're playing a pentatonic scale. I don't care how you play it. It's the blues.
Yeah, I agree. Clapton doesn't, but I agree.
Well, you know, I mean, of the players that I just happened to mention, I mean, I listened to Angus Young. There's a lot of blues in Angus Young's play,
Definitely.
especially in the Bon era.
Yeah,
you know, and
definitely.
there are a ton of blues. The way in which Angus makes, I mean, look, I have younger players ask me all the time. They say, you know, give me some things I can work on to mix major and minor pentatonic. Well, you take them right to AC/DC.
Sure.
Right? I mean, he is the master of teaching you how to mix major and minor pentatonic. Teach him solo to Shook Me All Night Long. There you go.
Yeah.
Well,
You know,
like
I mean,
you say, Ty, the Bond years especially, they're as much a rhythm and blues band as a blues band. Like there's
Especially
a lot
those-
of swing,
yeah.
a lot of boogie woogie stuff.
Yeah,
especially those early records, you know, I mean, the earliest of record. Even tone-wise,
Jack.
man, you know, even tone-wise, it's very bluesy.
Sure.
Oh, without a doubt. Earlier on, especially too, with that, the tone early on.
Yeah, but even into the Brian days, I mean, they were still rocking plexis, and
Yeah.
you know, Angus has a very, very simple rig.
Yeah.
You know, the only problems he sweats like a lunatic, so they're constantly replacing jacks and pots in those, you know, the SGs. But he's still on stage playing with, you know, the SG that he recorded Back in Black with. You know, it's you know, I saw a nice little, you know, you get those rig rundowns, and you know, he's just a simpleton, just, you know.
Yeah, it's true because, you know, you look at a guy like Eddie and his sound evolved from, you know, the Van Halen 1 to the end. It's completely different, his sound. Angus isn't really all that much different, I don't think. You know, it's still, obviously it is different, but I don't think it's as much of a stretch as Eddie's was, because Eddie went from from like not much gain to like real high gain at the end. You know what I mean? And
Well,
Angus,
we'll touch on that more. I have more to say about that, but finish what you're saying.
yeah, but I think Angus is, I don't think he's strayed too much from that, formula of his, that that tone that he liked.
Angus's tone changed just as studios evolved, I think.
I think, first of all, with Angus, and first of all, thank you, Paul Fuchs, for the
thanks,
for the
Paul.
super
Thank
chat.
you, Paul.
Says love y'all. This is always a great prelude to some basement guitar rock. So
Man,
thank you,
thanks, Paul.
As
Very
far
generous
as
of you.
my opinion with Angus is, it depends on the year on how much gain he's using. Like in the very beginning, it was just a plexi or however many plexis he was using, very low gain. Back in Black years, 80, 81, 82, 83, he played with more gain. He may have maybe the tubes were a little bit hotter. Like the biasing, they may have biased it hotter. He may have had something with a master volume. I'm not really sure. But in those years, there was more gain. It was pretty much the same sound, but more gain. Then the Thunderstruck years, up until now, he seems to be playing with less and less gain. In the very last concert that they played, the very last tour, he wasn't able to get that much singing sustain out of his guitar because it was very clean. There was very little gain.
In 2008 on the Black Ice tour in Charlotte, and I bet Tony was there. Tony, it was in the arena downtown. What is that arena called? Time Warner Arena, maybe. I was front row, right in front of Angus, and it was the most punishing concert experience I've ever had in my life, because there was so much volume coming off of the stage that I could literally. I'm on the front row, but I'm a long way from the cabinets, and the cabinets are really kind of like hitting me right here in the top of the head. But I could feel the air move, and it was so loud that if you've never experienced anything like this might not make any sense. But the only way I can think to describe it is, it was painful in my chest. All of that coming off, and there was definitely it was definitely very clean, definitely plexis jacked all the way up, tons of sustain at that show. I mean, but the most impressive part of Angus's playing that night is how he controlled all of that on stage, right? He had complete control over it on a little SG hiked way up here, that he never seemed to look at while he was playing. He just did his thing. And that is he's a Yoda of his own domain, right? I mean, he's just got it, man. Mm-hmm. And Malcolm's over on the other side, and it's just as loud coming off. I just don't understand how Cliff and them sit there every night under that type of volume.
Obviously, it affected Brian, right?
It's funny you say that, because I saw them at the Garden with Axl.
Oh yeah,
and shockingly enough, he killed it. Axl, I was pleasantly shocked by it, and knowing they had that range back, they pulled out. I mean, two that comes to mind. They played Dog Eat Dog and Riff Raff.
Yep. Shot Down in Flames. Yeah, I saw that tour.
I was like, oh my God. It was one of the, more real deep cut set list than you could ever ask for. And they took advantage of having that range back up there. No offense to Brian, but, he's not there anymore. I mean, he tries, but he's just not. He's almost 70 years old. Mm-hmm. Or if not there already. It was wild to see. I was apprehensive, but he stepped in and he did the job. I was shocked.
Yeah, he was
Thanks to
fantastic.
Kurt 5150 for the super chat. Says,
Thank
hey,
you.
Pete, glad to see you sporting the hat I made for you. Looks good on you, bro.
Yeah, thank you.
That's very cool.
Nice. We got Dave Ennis joining us, Citizen Kane, Charlie S, Terry's 3Gs. Nice.
Oh, Guitar Man 45 brings up Motorhead. I saw Motorhead. Yeah, they'll punish you too.
So not that I want to be John's mouthpiece, but we could swing off Angus for a minute. And I don't know if you know this about Johnny, but big Andy Summer fan.
Oh, cool.
He really nails a lot of Andy's tones, because I do some police stuff. He's like, he's doing that with a flange, right? I'm like, huh? And, sure as shit.
The key to the police sound, everybody thinks it's a chorus or something like that. It's the electro harmonics, electric mistress, the original electric mistress pedal, not the stereo one they have out now. You can kind of duplicate it with that, but if you click on that pedal, it's instant Andy Summers, the electric mistress. That's the pedal right there. That's the police sound in a box right there.
Well, it's also that double bound Sunburst Telly through a Marshall. Yeah,
right. And that's what it was too. But he used a Roland for a little while there too, on synchronicity and stuff like that. The Roland, you know what I'm talking about?
Sure.
The JC 120.
I'm pretty sure it's JC.
Yeah, that's for it's clean. Yeah, for it's clean. But and he used that Dakota Red Strat. He still uses that.
He used that all the time. Yeah, exactly. But that's the key. If anybody who ever wants to play police songs, you'll know right away when you hit that pedal. That's the sound right there. That's the secret sauce. That's it.
I love the way Andy Summers voices chords.
Yeah.
I mean, you can rock players can take away so much from his jazz influence just in the way he voices some of those chords.
Yeah, you just look at like a song like "Murder by Numbers." So he wrote the music for that, and Sting had his lyric book. I mean, the story of that's incredible. That thing, they were eating dinner. They were so. There's a great documentary out that I don't know if you guys have seen it. It's called "Under the Volcano." If you get a chance.
Is that one that Andy Summers narrates?
No, but he's in it. They're all in it. All these bands. So basically, George Martin, the Beatles producers, he opened Air Studios Montserrat. So it's an island in the middle of the Caribbean, like way in a remote place in the Caribbean. He loved the island there. It's called the Emerald Isle of the Caribbean. It's just like black sand. It's just beautiful. But there's a giant volcano on the island. And so he built Air Studios Montserrat there. And he had a Neve board, they had like the greatest stuff. It was this big house with a pool. So when bands would come and record there, in 1979 it opened and it closed in 1989. But I mean, the list of bands that played there and artists, the thing about it was they couldn't really leave the island. They couldn't go anywhere. So when you came there, you were in for a month or whatever. You were there 2 months recording your album, and you went to the little bars in town, the pubs, and hung out there and got to know the townspeople. And this documentary, it tells about the beginning all the way to the end of it. And people from Paul McCartney, Jimmy Buffett, he was one of the first to Duran Duran. The Police did Synchronicity there, and they did Ghost in the Machine there. Elton John. I mean, the Rolling Stones. I could go on. Stevie Wonder. It just goes on and on the list of people that recorded there, and it's a great documentary if you get a chance to see it. Under the Volcano. So it just tells a story about the place and the people on the island that worked there at the studio or that knew. Dire Straits. Brothers in Arms, that album is recorded there, and Mark Knopfler tells the stories about. I would love to have. I wish we had Sting here because he could sing that part. I want him to sing that "Don't Stand So Close to Me" melody. I want him to sing "I Want My MTV." And somebody says, "Well, Sting's here. He's vacationing on the island right now. I guess he learned how to windsurf there. So they're like, get him up here. So they got him up there to do. It just happened to be he happened to be there at the time. But it's a great story. And then it goes on to be Hurricane Hugo came in and basically destroyed the island. And George Martin got there a few weeks later, went into the studio, lifted the piano that was there, ran his fingers across the keys, and there was green mold on them, and he knew that was it. They're done. So they stripped, they got the board out of there, and it's abandoned now. It's like ruins, the studio. But when you see all the great bands they interview on this documentary and great music that was recorded there, it's just incredible, the quality of music. And it goes a lot to the fact that they couldn't leave that island, that they were there. Even if you didn't get along with each other, you were there for a reason, and you worked on the album, and so many great albums came out of that. And since then, the volcano has erupted, and the studio, the ruins, are in the zone where you're really not allowed to go into. But they bring you in there, and they show you the ruins of the studio. It's pretty amazing. And
where is it, John? Is it streaming on Prime or?
Yeah, I think it's on. Where did I bought it? It might have been on Netflix, but it's called Under the Volcano. But it's definitely a great documentary. I really enjoyed it. And when you see all the great music that came out of there, there's something to be said for that. That whole island vibe, and the fact that they were locked on that island and they really couldn't get off until they finished whatever they were doing. Everybody, the albums, and there's a lot of great stories in it too about Stevie Wonder playing in one of the local bars there, and I think they even have the recording of him jamming in the bar, and it was incredible. He recorded like Ebony and Ivory. Him and McCartney recorded that there. The Rolling Stones did Steel Wheels there. I mean, there's just so many great albums there, but. If you get a chance to watch that, and of course the Police albums, and they had Stuart Copeland's drums set up in a dining room in a different part of the house, and he was on closed circuit TV, and he hated that because he knew that Sting was in the control room complaining about he couldn't get any feedback from that because Sting was in the control room with his bass plugged in direct. Andy was in the studio with his guitars, and Stuart was upstairs in there where the dining room was. So I think there was a lot of issues because of that, a lot of infighting, to the point where Andy Summers went to George Martin's house and asked him if he would come down and help maybe produce the record for them because it's not going to happen. They can't agree on anything. And George Martin said, no, you guys need to figure it out, which they did. And and obviously they made a great album there too. They made a couple great albums there, but it's worth watching though. It's a good documentary. It just came out. So
When they reunited, for that small trek,
yeah.
I'm like, how am I going to get a ticket for this? And I was going through the cable box, and I just happened to stumble onto PBS Channel 13.
Uh-huh.
And they were doing this big police thing.
Right.
And they said if you donate in excess of $300, you get a pair of tickets to the police show at the Garden, whatever date it was.
Right. Uh-huh.
And I'm like, I turned to my wife, I'm like, they're done. Let's go make a donation. We'll get the tickets. We didn't know where they were going to be.
Right.
And literally, we get the tickets. We're in like the top of the 100s, just off a Sting side. They were like incredible seats. I couldn't believe it. And, Beth, she just loves Sting, like any woman, middle-aged woman thinks he's the hottest guy on the planet. So Sting comes out on stage in a full beard. And the look on my wife's face is like,
yeah.
Why does he look like
that was the final show. That was the final show.
Yeah. Were you there? So about with 5 songs left in the set, he just runs off the stage. He jumps in a barber chair and his daughter shaved the beard off. I looked at Beth when he came back out. I'm like, let me check the seat. Is it soaked?
Happy now.
She's like, she was almost in tears. Like, did he hear me? Like, oh my! Like, what are the odds that he ran off stage and shaved his beard off? It was actually pretty funny. That was a great show too.
I actually got to see them the night before at the Apollo Theater in Harlem.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it was great, and that was the first time I was ever at the Apollo Theater. I cannot believe how small that place is. It is a great acoustic.
Very small.
It's very tiny. So Elvis Costello was doing a show. He had a show where he'd interview people and stuff like that. So they did it there that night. So he spoke with the police, and then he got up and he played with them, and they did like a mashup of like watching the detectives and Walking on the Moon together. It was just great, and they played a bunch of other songs. They did "Sunshine of Your Love" by Cream. The Police did. It was just an amazing show. So I was able to get into that. But I saw them 5 times on that tour, and I saw them originally. I saw them at Shea Stadium in '83. That one might have been my 3rd concert. I think Van Halen was my first. I think Pat Benatar was my second, and the Police were my 3rd.
Yeah, I saw the Police on the Synchronicity tour.
Yeah.
Boy, what
That was
incredible show. And I
sick.
saw him on the reunion tour too.
Yeah.
When which band member's son opened with Fiction playing?
Sting's, Sting's son,
Sting's
Joe.
son,
Yeah.
I mean, fantastic.
Yeah, he's a very talented guy.
Yeah,
but
absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I like the fact that when they came back, they decided, oh, no, we're not gonna have any background singers. We're just gonna be the three of us, like we did back in the early days. You know what I mean? No enhancements. And even when they played King of Pain, there was no piano in it. Sting was just doing it on the bass, like a power chord, boom, boom. It sounded great because those guys they could make for three guys, they could make something sound so huge.
Oh yeah,
with
them
the counter
right.
that they did with the bass playing one thing and not the guitar wouldn't double it. They would, it was just.
I
so
think
cool.
I think the Police are probably the loudest trio ever made.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Ever to grace a stage. So
Jimmy
yes.
might have something to say about that.
I mean, to your point, John, to see a band like that in the Apollo, right? So I've seen Rush. Oh God, I can't even count how many times, right? But when I saw him at Radio City, that was insane.
Amazing. Right?
It was like the room was built for that band. All right, any arena you go in, you're going to have your issues. But, to hear that quality in a room like that, and, speaking of another power trio, I mean, Jesus.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been lucky because I got to see Van Halen in a club, and I got to see the Police in a small theater too. So, two of my favorite bands I got to see in a small setting like that, which is pretty cool. So
nothing like it.
No, absolutely. The Van Halen one was at what used to be Gazzari's. What's there now? I think it's 10 Oak, but it was the Billboard Live. It was called. It was on the Van Halen 3 tour, not the tour. It was like the premiere party for the record, and they dropped the curtain down after the radio broadcast went over, and they had all their gear there. And I was the only person in there with a 35 millimeter camera, so I was able to get some really good shots. And it was cool. Literally standing in front of Eddie and him making a face on the microphone, looking at you, because I had the camera pointing at him. It was really cool. And it was the first night that they played live with Sharon, and they played some stuff from the new album, obviously, but all the rest of it was all David Lee Roth era stuff that we hadn't heard in over
in a long time.
Live, Feel Your Love Tonight, stuff like that. It was great.
It would have been 20 years at that point.
Well, we heard Mean Street. We heard Mean Street on that tour for the first time.
Yeah, exactly.
In a long time.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, they did On the One that night because I got a picture of Eddie snapping his fingers doing the ba-ba-da, shoo-be-doo. That's how I know. It's like, oh, that's what song they were playing there. So, but yeah, that was great seeing him. It was nice and loud too in there. You can imagine they had it cranked up pretty loud. So,
what was the best Van Halen show you saw, John?
I'd have to say that simply because I was like, right there, like 2 feet away, in a club, really, you know what I mean? So I have to say that probably was. But I mean, I don't know. I've seen so many great shows. I think I saw Van Halen about 35 times. I think I counted, and I really enjoyed like of the Sammy years. The 5150 tour was amazing because they were brand new and they were just full of like it was just
they were excited.
You could feel but after that, I'd have to say the Foreign Lawful Carnal Knowledge tour. I enjoyed that tour. I saw them about 8 times, I think, on that tour alone, and with Alice in Chains and everything. It was just a great tour. But those are ones stick out. 1984 was great, and I shouldn't say that because that Diver Down thing was just insanity. It was just that's what got me hooked that night, And the following week, Eddie must have, I don't know, he did something. It was in one of the books to break his hand or he fractured his wrist. And they had to cancel the shows at Nassau Coliseum, I think it was, on the Diver Down tour. They came back.
Yeah, I think he threw a punch. He and his brother were fighting, and he threw a punch, and his hand went through a wall. I think that's what happened. Almost positive that's what happened.
So they canceled the show it was either the Garden or Nassau Coliseum, I think there. So
it was the Coliseum.
So here's a cool story. I was too young, and I had just seen them the week before, so I was in full Van Halen mode. But in our town over here, there was a bar called Ashley's, and that the 19th of October, which is when they were supposed to be playing, I guess the Coliseum or wherever. That night, the Mamas and the Papa, the new Mamas and the Papas were playing there with John Phillips, and Mackenzie Phillips was in the band, his daughter, from One Day at a Time. So that night, like our family friend was there because he was friends with the owner, but he told me the story. I was too young, but so he says, "Hey, we got some special guests coming up here. Come outside." So he says, sure enough, the limo pulls up and the back door opens, and along the back between the driver, he said there were empty Heinekens. That's all you could see stacked along the back of the bar. And sure enough, Eddie and Valerie get out, and it was like, this is in our town, the little town up here in Westchester, and so they went in for the show in there, and apparently that they were great to everybody that was there. They stayed for the whole night, and people were buying them drinks, and they said Eddie did throw up in the bathroom that night because I guess so many people were buying him drinks. So it's like it's like folklore in the town here, a legend, but it's kind of a cool story that. In the out of nowhere, it's like they were like at that point they were like the biggest band. They were exploding. Van Halen knew that 1984 was going to be this worldwide
absolutely
So it was pretty wild that that they were here like a mile away. So I was like, I can't believe it. They were in my town. So it was cool when you're 14 years old, right?
It was not lost on Keith Campbell that Val and Mackenzie were together.
Yeah.
Once again,
Val got together.
So everyone in the panel, what was your favorite Van Halen tour?
I never saw him live, so there's the easy answer.
Oh, okay. Well, Pete?
Shockingly enough, I think it was with Sharon. Only because you got the bucket of all of it, right? It was the first time you were hearing that Dave music again. Quite frankly, the band was on fire. I mean, they really were. And second to that, probably the For Lawful Carnal Knowledge tour. It was because of that tour I really started digging Alice in Chains. I mean, it was that's how I got brought in, to that world. That's what started the whole 90s trend for me. But it's probably those two again, just because of my age. My first Van Halen show was Oh You Wait 1-2. And then I've seen every show ever since. So
cool. Ty, how about you?
I've seen them a bunch of times. I'm going to say 84. Then I'd probably say Carnal Knowledge. Because I saw them several times on that run too, and they were fantastic. And I loved the set list there too. Remember too, they played a lot of that record on that tour, and it was a really good record for me. But you know what? I really dug the 07 reunion tour. I mean, I think at that point I was so hungry for that, especially coming off of the 04 experience. And if you remember, they opened a lot of those tours in the Southeast, so got a lot of opportunity to see tour openers.
Right.
I don't know. But, the show I saw in 12 was pretty fantastic. And Ed just played.
He was on fire.
Just that night, he was so perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And
he was on.
Also,
that whole tour.
That 2012 show was the first time my wife had seen him. And so being able to experience that with someone who had never seen him before and see that wonder kind of thing is pretty special. And, at this point, she and I had been married for a lot of years, and she had been putting up with the Van Halen thing for a long time. But she looked over at me, a few songs in the set and said, I get it now. I mean, that was spectacular.
If you combine 07 through 15, and if you saw most of the shows, at least in the New York area, you got some gems.
Oh yeah.
When I was at the 07 Eddie Meltdown show in Jersey.
Yeah, so was I.
And I was actually in the pit, right? The VIP was in the pit. I almost got into a fight with Valerie's now husband backstage. I had the the whole dinner thing, it's a story for another day since it's a G-rated show, but it was pretty funny. I embarrassed the guy enough because he embarrassed himself to the point where Valerie jumped up, gave me a hug, and signed my ticket. And I could keep it. I was back. We were eating, right, drinking beers, and the production guys, Valerie, our husband, and he was telling a story, like a sex story about him and Val, and he was being a little loud about it. And then I'm drinking Bud cans, and I'm pretty, I'm pretty sauced at this point. And he just leans back after he tells the story, and he looks at me, and he goes, "Don't repeat what you heard here. I'm going to crack your head open." And now I'm with my buddy Freddie, and my buddy Fred's like, "Oh no." He thought I was gonna get up and just start.
Break his leg? You're gonna break his leg?
He thought I was just gonna get up and hit him. Like there would be no words. I would just get up and crack him. So I just looked back at him. I'm like, and he was bald. And there's another bald guy at the table. And my favorite movie of all time is Easy Money. And I got to use the line. I go, "Hey man, why don't you and that guy put your heads together and make an ass out of yourselves?" Right? He starts turning beet red. Valerie almost like spills her drink, jumps up laughing, gives me a hug. He's turning beet red up. He goes to get up. I go, "Listen, pal, just sit down. Just sit down. I don't know what town you've been to, but welcome to New York and New Jersey. You don't talk to someone like that." So,
you talk about your wife like that.
Wait, it gets even better. So the whole show, I'm in the pit. Eddie melts down. Wolfie looks like he's gonna cry. The confetti comes out of the air for jump, and everyone's leaving. Right. So I'm walking out of the, we're filing out of the pit, and at the way to get out of the pit, there was the bald guy that I made part of the joke. Was standing there. I'm like, "Are you serious? Is this guy waiting for me the whole show?" So he sees me coming. He's smiling. He waves me over. He goes, "Hey, man." He goes, "That was my brother." He goes, "That was the funniest thing I ever heard." And he goes, he exact words. He thinks who the fuck he is that he's banging Valerie Bertinelli. Thanks for knocking my brother down a peg. Like, he waited to shake my hand for me insulting his own brother. So I mean,
I'm gonna have to put this show on private.
No, it's a fair.
If you'd like to hear more stories like that, subscribe today.
Anyone who's not watching this live, you're not going to be able to ever see the show.
It was funny, but again, then he went away for undisclosed reasons. Pops back out in 2018, and I got to hear the full bug. I've never heard that live, right?
Yeah.
They put that out. And 15, believe it or not, was the thank you goodbye set list, right?
Yeah, man.
That was my favorite of the Dave reunion years. It was 2015. I thought the set list was great. I thought the band sounded phenomenal. I just wish the 2007 Dave voice was there at 2015. Then it would have been perfect,
Exactly. Eddie wasn't at full power in 2007, and Rock wasn't in full power in
15. Exactly.
Yeah.
I thought the band was in 2015 was just they were.
It was like listening to any tour other than 04 with Hagar, because the band when Hagar was with that band was so tight.
Yeah.
The background vocals were tight. The music, the songs, everything always sounded like it was done in a studio. Everything was perfect until 04, of course.
Yeah.
But it was. 15 was the same way. It was like a well-run machine at that point.
It really was. And that set list in 15 was just perfect. I thought it was the greatest set list of any Van Halen tour that I've ever seen. I just thought it was just...
Yeah, and just to hear, they could have came out and did it in a simple rhyme. It was worth the money. They could have played that one song. And
Dirty Movies, Drop Dead Legs. I mean, so Light Up the Sky. I mean,
Yeah.
It was so good.
I mean, we got Light Up the Sky as the opener, if I remember right.
Right.
Get it.
Yeah.
In a simple rhyme? Come on.
Yeah.
So as
Well,
far as
if I remember right, too, we got like Romeo Delight, like number 3.
Yeah.
You know, in the set. I mean, they ripped your head off from the beginning.
Yeah. They played
that
Romeo
set
Delight every tour. Every tour they do that song.
It used to be
You're
there.
right. It was killer. You know, for me, I mean, I've seen them every year since 1981, every tour. But the tour that did it for me is the Van Halen 3 tour, not because of the set list, but because I was Eddie's. I was personally invited by Eddie, and that meant the world to me. That was back when he actually knew my name and knew who I was, and that was everything to me. So, anyone could have sung. Yeah, it was just I was his personal guest, and that's all that mattered. So Keith Campbell says the Vitali story was worth everything.
See?
Yeah, that was a fun night.
Thanks for the super chat, Keith.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Keith.
So Dave and I at the 15 tour, luckily Jones Beach, they on that tour they played the Hollywood Bowl twice and Jones Beach twice.
That's right.
And Jones Beach was a Thursday and a Saturday.
Yep.
So I had tickets to both. I'm like, okay, I'm going to experience one sober, so I remember it, and one I'm going to get friggin' slammed for, right? And, enjoy Van Halen. So I did the sound check experience on the first show.
I was there for that. I saw you just after that.
Yeah, because you heard out in the parking lot, you heard the D-Tuna failure.
Yeah, yeah.
Which sucked because Tom was ready to bring Dave and I back and chat and stuff, but since Ed during sound check, the D-Tuna went out of whack and he had to friggin', that was his main max. He had to triage and get it done and something like that.
Let me real quickly tell you a story about that. So they're doing sound check. They're doing Drop Dead Legs. And Eddie pulls the D-Tuna out, and it's fine until he pushes it back in. Not only did he break the D-Tuna, but he broke the saddle that the D-Tuna sat in, the low E-string saddle. And Eddie said to Tom, I want this guitar gig ready by 8 o'clock. And Tom was like, how am I going to do that? I don't have any extra. He didn't have any extra parts. So he had to rape it off of one of the guitars, but he was on the bus working on this guitar, trying to get it all ready. And the D-Tuna wouldn't work with the other saddle that he put in. So he had to basically bastardize 2 or 3 guitars to get a saddle that the D-Tuna would work right with.
I wonder what he had to do. Would he have to Dremel it out or something, the inside of it?
Well, yes. The inside of the D-Tuna was on all of his D-Tunas were done that way because a lot of the times when a guitar is tuned to E flat, the D-Tuna won't work correctly unless you hollow out the inside of the D-Tuna a little bit.
A little bit more, right? I had heard that. Yeah,
like it wouldn't go flat enough to come back. It wouldn't come back to E. If you tune it to D, it goes to D fine.
Right.
But when you tune it back up, it's a half step short of where you need to be.
Gotcha.
So he was freaking out, and of course the guitar was fine, and he used it the whole show. He used it for everything that was an E flat that didn't have keyboards on it. And then he used, did he use?
He used the Circles.
He used the Circles guitar, and then he used a Wolfgang standard.
Yeah, black one, right?
Yeah, a black one. Right.
Yeah.
He didn't use any. Actually, at that point, there were no more Charvel Art Series guitars left, so he didn't do any of that. But
Yeah, he didn't use the
that
star
tour-
guitar at all. I don't think. No. Right?
he didn't use the star guitar. I think he started using that just after our shows. But like he used, I think in the very beginning of that tour, he used the Red Wolfgang for a few shows. Then he went to the circle guitar, and then he started using the star guitar, and then from there he used a Wolfgang standard for it all, for all the keyboard songs. But it just, man, what a wonderful memory!
Yeah.
I will never ever complain. Well, now it doesn't pay to, but I never ever complained after watching that tour that we weren't getting new music or that they weren't touring, because I got to tell you, my everything that they've done up to that point, I was able to enjoy personally. So if they never played again, I was okay with it.
I had a weird premonition that was the last time I was going to see them. I don't know if you guys felt that way. Leaving at Jones Beach, I felt that. I did see them one more time after. I saw them up in Bethel Woods, the old Woodstock site up there.
Yeah.
In September there. But and that night I felt it too. I felt like, wow, this is probably. I just had a feeling this is the last time we're going to see Van Halen. I don't know why, but I did, and obviously it was.
Yeah, no, I had those same feelings. Listen, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. The mere fact that we got 3 tours in an album,
Yeah.
When any rightful Van Halen fan was thinking, are they going to get through 3 and this is over? Are they going to get through 1? And to get 3 out of it was,
Yeah, it's true. That's what's
well. It's funny that we did learn to expect that as super fans, right?
Yeah.
Like we did appreciate everything we got because we weren't sure if we were getting anything else.
Yeah,
So
you had to suck it in. You had to take it in.
yeah.
That's why it was so fascinating that when we spent a lot of time, I think, on the book the other night about the later years, because we all know, the story about the younger years and things like that. But those later years, those last, 20 plus years in the late 90s, after Van Halen 3, there to the end, it was just, a fascinating time because we don't know what was going on. It was a lot of those, obviously he was ill and things like that, but was he still writing music actively? Is there a lot of music on those walls, that's in some kind of form where it could ever be released? We don't know, it's, I hope there is some stuff.
If you want to think of it this way, the cool part of that is that it brought us back to when, before the internet, where we didn't know what a set list was going to be. We didn't hear of things beforehand. One day, a tour came up. We didn't know what songs they were going to play until we actually saw the show. So having Van Halen being so tight-lipped about everything until it actually happens makes us go back to that time where there was no internet, where you could see them on YouTube or know what the set list was before it was happening, or it was upsetting, but it was cool because you would be either surprised or disappointed. You just didn't know.
It is true.
Well, only disappointed in the fact that I didn't get Dirty Movies, or I didn't get I'm the One, or whatever it was. Right. I mean, it was only it was that level of disappointment for me. Look, I even found I was at the tour opener in 2004, and I'm sure Tony was probably there too, in Greensboro, North Carolina. And I even found some genius in that performance. And granted, it was early, in the show. But when he came with that tone and that harmonic to begin everything, right before Al hits the drums for the first time, you knew you were in the presence of greatness. It was just varying levels of greatness, right? I mean,
yeah. And very early in that tour, he really wasn't the bad Ed yet. He was wasn't all there, but it wasn't like samurai hair. You know, it wasn't.
No, he had the top knot.
Oh, he did, but I think
yeah.
he in the very early in the tour, he was still playing okay. He wasn't like.
I just remember being struck by how thin he was. You know, when because he came out, if I remember right, it's a long time ago. So
no shirt.
Yeah, he came out no shirt, and I want to say maybe some baggy, camouflage pants or green pants or something like that.
Yes, they were three-quarter size green pants. You saw his ankles and everything.
But I just remember looking at him going, wow, this is a different look. This is not what we saw on the Gary tour.
I mean, no disrespect to the dead. He should have died 10 times.
Yeah, he lived for a guy that died early in age. He lived a long life for Eddie Van Halen.
He lived a hard life. I mean,
yeah, everything was to the max. It seemed like everything,
Mm-hmm.
They didn't, But on that 2004 tour, I remember I saw them twice at the Meadowlands, and one night it was just the worst I'd ever seen. I was just so disgusted.
Yeah, June 22nd, 2004 was my birthday.
Yeah, you couldn't even tell what song he was playing sometimes. The only way you could tell was by Michael and Alex. That's how you could, because he was, even the riffs he was playing, it was like some of them were like, what is this? And then the second show, the next night, he was much better. He still wasn't great, but he was much better than the first night there. But
the first night, that's when Sammy put his arm around and was like, yo, man.
Yeah.
He's like, you okay? Like, where the hell are you?
Yeah, it was pretty bad, that one. But you know what? I don't even like that whole era. I don't like to look at the photos of it. That guy that put out the book, that Andrew Bennett book. I don't even like to talk about that book. I mean, I know a lot of people like it and stuff.
I refuse to buy that book. I refuse to buy it.
No, you're right, because it's not. It's basically, I feel like it's a money grab, and it's just at a bad time. And some of those photos that Ed wouldn't want anybody to see those photos. So I just think it's.
I hate that. I hate the party in his backyard. I hate
all that, the porn music,
video. Like someone needs to just take it and burn that.
Exactly. Just remove that era there. That's
I don't want to see that stuff. I hate it.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I did. I remember the guitar solo in 04, and this will be the last thing I say about it. It was not my first exposure to a sustainer, but as a player, I had never heard it used quite the way he used it in that solo, and I actually took away some things, from that, and immediately found the guitar. I could slap a sustainer in and pray that I could fit that giant board into the cavity. And, but I was still standing in the same room with Eddie Van Halen.
Yeah,
I'm in the same room. It was always such a big deal for me to be there.
Like John said, like, you just had a feeling 2015 was it. When Rush finished the R40 Trek, when I saw that show, which was the most insanely well put together production I have ever seen by a band. So on the last Rush tour, they basically played their current album back to their first album. So what they did. And in their last 3 tours, they played for 3 hours with a 10 or 15-minute break. Like, they were as fan friendly as you get.
Yeah.
But the last tour, it started with all the production, and then from the first note, there was guys coming out in orange suits and just taking stuff away.
Yep.
Little by little. So. By the time the first set was done, the stage was stripped down to 2112, and Neil's set was the 2112. And when they came out with that last hour and a half, They kept going backwards. Here comes these guys with the orange jumpsuits. They keep stripping it down, and they finally got to Working Man, where there was nothing on the stage, and there was two like dining room chairs, not even the same chair. Like one was this, one that, with an amp on the chair for Getty and an amp on the chair for Alex.
That's
and,
awesome.
You know, like an 8-piece drum set, and the backdrop was a gymnasium.
That's awesome.
You know, so it went from all the lasers and the lights to the gym.
That's awesome.
It was like
Amazing.
I never like almost shed a tear at a concert, but I almost cried after that. I'm like, what did I just watch? It was
right.
It was just incredibly beautiful the way like they when a band's that successful and they truly understand where they came from. You know what I mean? There's a lot of bands that don't get that. You know, they'll get it when they were playing arenas. Now they're playing clubs. Suddenly they're humble, right? You know, then that humble aspect comes in.
The great,
the
great part about Rush is that you can watch that. I'm sure they have a R40 video out, right? Correct?
Yeah, you can watch it.
Yeah.
It's definitely something worth seeing.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's one of the worst parts of the whole Van Halen history is that there's not much of any video. You know what I mean?
They never documented it like that.
And even the show that everybody thought, the Oakland show, Eddie said, I guess it's in the book, that they didn't record anything more than those 3 songs apparently. So,
I just, especially our age, like I know. We're seeing stuff for the last time.
Yeah.
Right. So I saw that. I definitely knew it was over. I had the feeling with Van Halen 2015. I have tickets in my possession right now to see the last Domino tour in Genesis.
Yeah, that's another one. You're right. Yeah.
And I'm a huge Tony Banks fan. Mike Rutherford is an insane musician.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, Mike Rutherford is using a Squire Strat on this tour.
No way.
Cool.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Wow.
But they just opened up in Birmingham, I think, a couple nights ago. I don't know if they're playing tonight. Go look at the footage. So Phil's son is 20 years old.
Amazing.
This kid is on another planet, drummer-wise.
Yeah.
And I saw him when he was 17 because I saw Phil Collins pre-pandemic. It was like the winter before. And he was still bad. He had the cane. He was sitting in a chair. He could have played drums. Yeah. And his kid was a senior in high school. And the discipline, like I could not believe that was a 17-year-old kid. And, wow. they did it on that opening night. They definitely delved into a lot of the Gabriel era stuff. The more,
which I love.
It's a perfect set list for them. It was a perfect set list.
It was insane. And the medleys they do were just on a different planet. And this kid was just crushing it.
Yeah, I would say that the band sounded better this time from what I watched on YouTube the other night, better than they did on the last couple tours. I thought even the keyboard sounds were better, more true to the album. I mean, I thought they sounded great. Obviously, Phil is just, he's in bad shape, and it's sad to hear him like that. Even his voice, it's just not. I mean, I can't believe how much it's changed.
It's a little wonky. The power's gone, right? That's Phil. He had that power.
Yeah. It's a little bit.
I mean, they're all of our heroes are getting old now. I mean, Clapton is on the road now, and I watched YouTube video.
He was in Atlanta 2 nights ago, I think.
I watched video from last week, and his neuropathy in his hands are really getting the better of him because you can tell that not only is he missing notes, he's missing strings. He's playing and flubbing strings, not just notes. So he is having trouble with his hands.
How old is Clapton now?
76, I think.
76. Well, I guess you got to expect it too, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, you got a very long run out of him. I don't care if he doesn't play the way he did in Cream. I think Journeyman is probably his best playing ever. Or even.
What's the album before that, Dave? Even the album before that.
August is before that.
Pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, and that's just August was the record was actually Blackie through a Marshall. For the tour, he had the Clapton Strats that the prototypes of the Clapton Strat, and on the prototypes he had, they were 21 frets, and all the guitars that we know have 22 frets on them, all the Clapton Strats.
Yeah, the noiseless pickups in those ones, right?
Yeah, they had the lace sensor pickups, 21 frets. And instead of the dB boost in the pot, he had a switch on his that gave him the gain. And that was on the red guitar and on the pewter guitar, the very first two that he had. But and he was playing with more chorus than you can ever want. But still, great playing. But God, his tone was horrible on August, but his playing was amazing.
Right. Yeah, but like Pete said, though, all of our these legends, they're all aging out, and just that whole era that we lived through, kids today are not going to have anything like that at all.
No,
because there's so many factors, including all the Pro Tools stuff, and everything's just packaged, and it's not
Well, here you can say well, Bonamassa this and all those guys, but where are the songs? They're great guitar players. Yes, guitar is not dead.
That's right.
How about the great guitar players playing the memorable great songs?
Yeah,
I think there is some of that there, Dave. I think that the problem today is how does an artist cut through the clutter? Because the guy that's the guy that's coming out on Warner Brothers on Friday has got to compete with guys like me that can make it on that computer right there.
Yeah.
And we all have a distribution channel right here through the web.
That's right.
I think it's harder for artists today to get traction. I was in Austin pre-pandemic, Austin, Texas, where if you walk on 6th Street, you can't throw a rock and not hit a multi-talented musician. I mean,
I agree.
They are all over the place. And look, you go into the big rooms in that town, the famous rooms, the Continental, Antones. You're going to get what you expect. You're going to get some guy with a Strat and a hat hitting a loud super reverb and a Fender Strat, killing it like Stevie. And you're going to go into a tiny room and see the same thing.
But
they can all throw down. I think it's there. I just think it's harder for them to gain mass traction.
I agree with you, and
go ahead.
My point is very similar to yours. I believe that in a way we benefited from the fact that there were maybe 8 major record labels, and we got to see these bands, their roster of artists. We got to see them grow from album to album to album. I mean, everything that we were allowed to experience or get from these record labels, it was all whatever they let us have. But like you said, now, Ty, how do you compete? Because it's just the genie's out of the bottle. Everything's exploded. You can't compete. There's so many bands. You hear one album and say, "Oh, I love that album." Whatever happened to that band? You never even hear from them again now. And they were great bands. But
True.
Back in the day, we would wait for the next Who album to come out, or the next Van Halen album, or whatever to come out. Now we don't have
exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying there is no shortage of great guitar players. Look, you got Cameron Brown, you got Cameron Cooper, you got Josh Smith, you got all these YouTubers that are making it as guitar players. But where's the song? Where's Pretending? Where is just like the songs? Where's Crossfire? Where's Tightrope? Where is
they're on Philip Sace's new record
on the radio?
They're on Philip Sace's new record, but he's not going to be a household name because of the market that we're in. I mean, it's harder for an artist to break out like that. I mean,
so they think Machine Gun Kelly is rock and roll.
I know, right?
And that isn't, isn't that that's a problem for me. And then I look at myself in the mirror and say, well, I'm such a dinosaur. But it is a problem for me that we have award shows and everything's lip sync.
Yeah.
It is a problem for me that my teenagers may buy concert tickets where there's more tracks running than there are real instruments, and that isn't notated on a live music ticket. All of that's a big problem for me.
I agree 100% with that. 100%.
Yeah, I agree. I honestly think that once Government Mule is gone, or Blackberry Smoke, or once those bands are gone, there is not going to be anything else.
Keith says something right now. He says artists push singles now, sadly. This is where it would be helpful to, I know Jay's in the chat and Jay's in the industry. This would be a good conversation topic for Jay to weigh in on. But if an artist sees a diminishing return on the time and the expense of creating a body of work, why not release singles? I mean,
I agree with you. I agree with you about that. But because they say, why am I going to go in the studio for a year and record this album and pay to record this album, pay everything, and then it's just going to be given away for free by everybody? Why am I going to do that? So they don't want to do that. So bands that have a back catalog to tour on, that's all they do now. Like I said the other night, they become nostalgia acts. Like some bands would fight against that. U2 always wanted to be relevant. They would change their sound to try to be, what's current. They would always do that. But even they finally gave in because it's inevitable. Everybody becomes dinosaurs, and the kids nowadays don't like that. But I agree with you 100%, Ty. Why not just release a single at a time? And you know what? After you get 9 of them out, 10 of them out, package it as an album and say, there's an album. Over a period of a year, I release a single, every month or two,
Right.
I love the way Wolfgang managed his album release. I loved it. I loved it that he spoon-fed us 6 singles before he dropped the record.
I agree.
I'm buying the record regardless.
Right.
But he built some momentum with the anticipation of the record, because you're like, wow, we get this song, it's great. We get this song, oh my God, that's great too. Right. We get this song, oh my God, that's really good too. And it just kind of, I thought it was very well done. It was strategic. I love the way he managed that. I don't know that every artist can do that.
Well, here's what I think on that, and Wolfgang himself said it the best. He said his name got him to the ball game, but once the record was out, that's what kept him, or is keeping him in the ball game. Because yes, was it name recognition? Yeah, maybe Joe Black with those songs probably wouldn't be heard. His last name is Van Halen, so everyone knows him. So yes, everyone gave him that chance for that reason before hearing the record. Once the record came out and everyone loved the songs, it's not about Wolfgang's name anymore. It's about the songs.
Well, the video, I'm going to see Wolfgang for the first time next week. I'm going to see him in a headlining spot, and then I'm going to see him the next night opening for GNR. The video that you see of him performing, especially in the smaller venues when he's headlining, it is so good.
The band you put together is.
It is so good, right, Pete? It is so good that he is going out of his way to say, oh, and one more thing, we're 100% live. There's absolutely no tracks. He is going out of his way to make that point because he knows the band's brilliant. Yeah. And where is that kind of, Dave, you make a good point. His name got him there, but what he's doing is keeping him there.
Yeah,
that's exactly right. He's doing it correctly.
One step forward from that. There's no big production. He's gigging with my rig. There's no giant rack. There's no guy pressing buttons behind stage, compressors. He doesn't even have a gate. He's right to the front of the amp, there's no trickery. You know what I'm saying? Like it's
Right.
it's stripped down how I play a club.
Look,
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt that the band you're opening up for is also giving you their PA, and they're making you sound. They're putting you over like it is the headliner. It just is a fact that they're doing that, because most of the times, and I'm not talking about their one-offs as a headline. I'm talking about opening for Guns N' Roses. Most bands that opening don't even get the good sound. They don't really get the time taken for to have the sound of their record. Wolfgang's whole set, there's not any futzing around with the PA getting their sounds together while they're singing their set. It is kick ass from the first note. It sounds like they are the headliner. They are as loud as Guns N' Roses. They are as crystal clear as Guns N' Roses. Everything about them is really on the money. It's on the money. It's like you're watching them as a headliner when they're opening for Guns N' Roses. It's amazing.
Yeah,
Ty, you're going to be when you see them with Guns. You're going to see them. You're going to see them as a main act next week. But when you see them with Guns, you're going to be so much more impressed with them because of what I just said. You're going to be like,
well, I'm super excited. Mostly, well, look, it's this album we've been waiting on this album for a long time. It's out. He's performing the record. Super excited about that. Then he's going to perform with GNR, and everything I hear about the GNR tour this year is that Slash is wearing a cape, probably playing the best guitar of his life. Should be a killer. Oh, and then next Thursday I'm going to see the Stones. So it should be a killer week of live music.
Definitely.
The Stones, Kellytown.
Well, we were talking about, is this the last run? I don't know. Is this the last run for the Stones?
No. Ty and I were talking about this on a phone call today, and I truly believe that unless, and God forbid, but unless Mick Jagger or Keith Richards passes away, the Stones will continue. If Ronnie Wood passes away, they'll get another guitar player. The Stones, honestly, although they're all talented as a whole, I mean, they got what the hell's the bass player, Daryl Jones has been with the Stones, I think, almost as long as Bill Wyman has been at this point. Yeah. They got what the hell is his name?
Steve Jordan.
Yeah, Jordan. Thank you. I can't think of it. My brain is shot. Yeah, Steve Jordan, who is probably going to be like Daryl Jones is. He's going to be in the touring band from now on. He'll be playing the drums on the records from now on. He will not be a Rolling Stone like Daryl Jones is not a Rolling Stone. Right. He's touring with the Rolling Stones. But they are always going to play with these musicians that are going to tour with them and do the records with them. But honestly, I mean, they've changed. They've had 3 guitar players, and Ronnie Wood, and the 2 before them. Unless Jagger or Richards dies,
Brian Jones and
Mick Taylor.
And I think of all, Mick Taylor was probably the best guitar player in that band.
Definitely, without a doubt.
But
that period when he was in there, that was the best Stones.
Right. But the two songwriters is Richards and Jagger. Yeah. So when one of those cats pass, the band will be done.
Well, you bring up a good point, Dave. What band member torpedoes the band, right? All right, let's count them down, right? Eddie Van Halen dies, Van Halen's over. I mean, that's extremely obvious. I was a little thrown back when Entwistle died that the Who kept going.
Yeah.
But again, to your
point, he's not the predominant songwriter. It's Pete Townsend and what's his name?
But still, I mean, he definitely was in a class by himself. Rush, Neil goes. I mean, could Portnoy do the job? Of course.
Yeah, but the thing is, Neil Peart was the songwriter. He wrote all the lyrics.
And out of respect, Getty and
That's
Alex,
the key. That's the key right there, Pete.
that's
the
the
key.
factor. So,
Yeah.
your point, everyone, there's always going to be the one person that's going to kill the legacy if they pass away.
Listen, ZZ Top, Dusty passes away 2 days later. They're on stage.
There's another guy on stage with a beard.
Yeah.
It's like what? It was.
But Dusty was down with that. Apparently, he was cool with that. He wanted them to do that. So
Guess so. Jimmy Carr, I got to say this because Jimmy, he says, why wasn't King's X one of the biggest bands in the world? They were amazing. Just curious what you think. King's X is one of my all-time favorite bands.
One of my favorite bands.
I agree. I don't get that. I don't even know why you explain that they weren't bigger than.
I think they were about 5 years, maybe 10 years ahead of their time because they were alternative before alternative.
Yeah.
It's like when they were trying to pigeonhole Alice in Chains as a rock and roll band, but they weren't a rock and roll band, but they weren't an alternative or a grunge band. Similar issues, just different decades.
Yeah.
King's X, just somebody was talking about Jimmy Carr was talking about Ty Tabor's tone.
Yep.
King's X. I mean, everything about that band, the visual look of the band, the songwriting, just the sound of the band. I mean, incredible.
It's extremely talented. It's almost like Extreme kind of picked up where they left off from.
I saw King's X and Extreme not maybe 7 or 8, 10 years ago in a club called The Chance in Poughkeepsie, a tiny little club.
Sure, I know.
A well-known place, yeah.
I saw them in a little place in Long Beach here called Malibu.
Okay.
And the stage was so small there, and they had their full rig, and it was probably the second loudest show I've ever been to. First loudest show I've ever was seeing Steve Ray Vaughan in 1984 at my father's place. That was like your teeth were coming out of their gums. That's how loud it was.
And Doug Penn, great singer, great bass player.
Yeah.
Great songs. We were talking about having the songs, Dave.
It's love. It's love alone.
Yeah.
That song alone.
It
should have been on number one. That song could have, thrown Beat It off.
What got the most traction out of the Summerland? Got the most traction? Over My Head, maybe.
I think Dogman, right?
Dogman is the biggest one.
Yeah.
Give me $1. Give me 50 cents. Fucking that's crazy song.
Great band.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes the path just doesn't open up right for some, right? I mean, whether it be poor management, it can.
You never know.
It could just be one guy that didn't want to put him on the radio. Like it's I hate to undersimplify it, but back in the day, it was as simple as that, right?
Look, it's as simple as this. In 1982, Billy Squier was at the top of his game and couldn't do any wrong. In 84, he put that video out where he danced on the bed, like a little something, and it ruined his career. And
that's when John bought his first pair of Keds.
and pink parachute pants.
I was actually listening to Billy Squier today, believe it or not.
I love Billy Squier.
Listen, Billy Squier is the reason why I have this guitar.
There you go. And you know what,
the Don't Say No record with him sitting on the floor with this guitar. That's I love it.
He made some good records after that whole "Rock Me Tonight" video thing like that. And the lady, I was listening to I don't know if a lot of people know that he's got the one song with Freddie Mercury. He's actually singing the backup vocals on a song too. Well, a lot of people don't even know it. It's like you hear it and you'll be like, "Oh my God, that's Freddie Mercury singing that."
He had such a cool voice, man.
He did, and his band, he had a great band. I mean,
Oh man, his drummer sound. He grooved just like Bonham did.
Bonham, you're right. He was like a Bonham. Yeah.
He hit so hard, that bass drum, my God.
Yeah, you're right.
That drum and that bass drum and that snare, just he I don't care how much drugs he did, he couldn't do any wrong on a drum kit.
Yeah. I mean, he just disappeared, Billy Squire. I guess, he made enough money and went away.
What was his name? Leonard?
Bobby Chenard.
Bobby Chenard, yes.
Yeah, he was very Bonham influenced. You're right, Dave.
Somebody would have to fact check this, but I read somewhere that Billy Squire was the most sampled artist in all of pop music.
It might be possibly, or yeah.
Most what?
The stroke was
sampled.
Oh, sampled. Yes.
Yeah, so he may be getting he may have all kind of mailbox money.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he does. And also to mention, when he was on the road, he had two separate guitar collections. He had a collection of vintage guitars that were so pristine, they didn't go on the road with him. Like he had 59 bursts with all the red on them, no scratches, tellies and broadcasters and blah blah blah, everything from every year with no scratches. And then he had the ones he took on the road, which were the beaters, so to say. But like he would take a 58 burst out, he'd take juniors out. He had a no caster. He had a
black cartel. Yeah, the black.
A no caster. Yeah, he had a 55 or 56 Sunburst Strat with him, and all plexi. His clean sound was a plexi, and his dirty sound was a. Oh no! I'm sorry. His clean sound was a 100-watt Marshall, and his dirty sound was a 50-watt Marshall that he just had on foot switches.
Yeah.
Now that's channel switching.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
John, what's your? I'm going to ask Pete the same question. What's your favorite EVH guitar tone?
Guitar tone?
Yeah.
I really love the 1984 album. That's my favorite. Like Girl Gone Bad. That's just my favorite, ultimate favorite Eddie tone right there. And you know what? It's weird because it is, and it's not as gainy as even some stuff before, like Mean Street had more gain than anything on like 1984. It was very clean. He backed off that volume knob, and that cleaned up so nicely. You know what I mean? And the sustain it had for not having a lot of gain. It's just like I always scratch my head. I'm like, how is that sustaining so much? Like without all that gain, with any gain, it was nice and clear. I think that's.
I'll tell you what it was. It was the continuity between his fingers and the strings.
There you go. I think you're right. We talked about that.
And all the weirdness. If you take away everything that Hagar did and up to today's music that he's done, the first record had the most gain on it.
Yeah.
Second record had slightly less gain, less reverb. Every record after that had less and less gain on it and less jizz on it.
Fair Warning was gainy.
Yeah, but still less. It had less than Van Halen 2 and Women and Children First. Still had less.
I think the song Mean Street may have had more, but the rest of the album, I don't think that's as gainy as like
Well, yeah, it was also the production, right? Because they pick up a lot on that album.
But you know what? I really think, I don't know. It's just when bands when they're like athletes, they're in the zone, like when they're having those career years and stuff like that. I believe bands are just in like a zone, and I think Van Halen's zone lasted quite a few years. Some bands maybe they get one or two albums when they're in this zone. It's just that when you think of that studio when 5150, where 1984 was recorded, it wasn't even there was no drum room at the time. It was all in the main room. Eddie and Alex were playing in the main room. They just had like like those baffles and stuff, and he had the half stack 412. I think that's what he was using there, and and that sound on that album is just, it doesn't even sound dated to this day. 5150 sounds dated obviously because of the Simmons drums and everything, but 1984 it had Simmons kick drums and Simmons floor tom, but the roto toms, none of that sounds dated to this day. That album still holds up. It's like classic. And the fact that they got that sound out of a 16 track, it just sounded amazing, that album. It's still, I don't understand it. The only way I can explain it is because they were in the zone. You know what I mean? Anything they could do no wrong. And I think
Yeah.
bands, when they have that peak album, you know what I mean? Could say like
Yeah,
U2,
I'm on the
like Joshua Tree or Unforgettable Fire. That's when they were like peaking. It was just like they could do no wrong. Everything just sounded amazing. And I think every band has a period like that. Some can prolong it longer than the others, but I don't know how to explain that, because that album, 1984, to me, is one of their best sounding albums. And I even think Eddie said that. He goes, yeah, it actually holds up pretty well. But the tone on that album is incredible.
I agree.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Pete?
Yeah, no, I'm right there with it. 84, again, it's going to sound weird the way I'm going to say this, but Van Halen 1 was a magic trick, right? He showed you something. He showed you the speed. He showed you how music theory could be thrown out the window. He showed you a lot of tricks. On 84, he showed you that he completely honed in on his attack with both his right and left hand. And he knew it. And he knew he could back it off. And he also knew that he actually learned how to write a truly melodic song. Like, I'm sorry, man. Once you get the Girl Gone Bad into House of Pain, like it was another planet, and it was stripped down. There was no phase 90. He had a little bit of a trailing delay. I think that's when he really started honing in on the delays versus the verb, right? Because he liked the verb, but he figured out how to get a reverb type sound by using delays to get there instead of a true verb.
I don't really hear the plate reverb all over that album. I think Panama, I think there's a little bit, right?
A little bit.
No, it's not. Panama is not. Those opening chords, that's the plex. That's the echoplex. That's the echoplex in front of the amp doing that little bump, 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 bump. And that's like the same sound on "Ain't Talking About Love" and in the beginning chords.
I hated that plate reverb that was on the early albums. I don't
like the reverb.
Yeah, but I don't like the reverb on there like that. I thought that's why I thought 84 was just, boy, they really, like you said, it's stripped down. I don't know how you explain it, how it sounds that good, because it wasn't like it wasn't like high tech. Like I said, that amp was in the same, they had to use the electronic drums for the bleed, you know what I mean? And it was just like, it's crazy that they were able to get that separation. I mean, that's a credit to Don Landy, I guess,
Agreed. I mean, listen, in this day and age where you're able to get guys who are able to isolate the tracks, like, I knew it was like that anyway. But then when you hear it isolated, you're like, it even further proves how less, like, it's almost like he's not even using a blue channel.
Right.
It's almost like
he's not. There is no all the gain that in that Marshall is the tube. It's the power amp. It's the power amp section, because there's no master on that amp. Everything is on 10. It's those tubes and the connection between his fingers and those strings that are causing the gain on that guitar.
All right, a little bit of a loaded question. What guitar is he playing on that record?
What mine is. I think we know he played that Flying V for most of the album, the Flying V, which, by the way, you got to read about it in the book. Everybody wants to know about that guitar. Eddie talks about that guitar in the book, and I don't want to give it away, but you're going to learn something about that guitar in the book.
Well, it's a 58. It's a 58 Flying V. I think he bought it from Norm's Rare Guitars.
Yeah, right. There's a whole story behind it, but if you want to find out where it wound up or whatever like that, you read the book. You'll find out about that in there. I don't want to say anymore, but but that's on most of the album. Obviously, the Ripley is on Top Jimmy, and then what else did he use? And obviously, listen, the Frankenstein I'm sure is on there, but I do believe that the 5150 Kramer is on there too. I do. Because the outro solo in Drop Dead Legs, it's got to be
the 5150.
What's that?
it reeked of the 5150. I agree.
I kind of think it did too. You know, I don't know. It's to me.
Well, you can definitely hear the difference in the tone of the two guitars. You can definitely hear the difference. I know both guitars are ash bodies, but the 5150 is a swamp ash. It's a very light. It's a light guitar, whereas the Frankenstein is northern ash. It's heavier. It's a beefier sound. Now, ash is going to be beefier than basswood no matter what you do. But the 5150 is a little light in the loafers compared to the Frankenstein because of the girth of the guitar.
Yeah.
So you can definitely hear a difference in the two guitars. If you were to play, if maybe not anyone, but if Eddie was to play those two guitars back to back, you could tell which guitar was which.
So which do you think got more time? Do you think the Frankie or the 5150
did? I'd say the 5150 did because
84 to 89, right?
What?
It was probably 84 to 88 or 89.
83.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm talking about. I'm sorry, specifically on the record, on the '84 record. I'm just curious as to, there's so much debate, 5150 or Frankie. I think we're all agreeing that it's probably both. But which do you think got more time?
5150, I think.
I'd say the 5150 because it had become his number one guitar for the next.
Then why didn't he grab it for the jump video?
Because I really think that he was saying goodbye to the Frankie kind of like.
Because that was their first big video too, right? Like they had the Pretty Woman video, but didn't get a lot of play compared to the jump video where, okay, guys, here's a budget. You're making a dedicated video, blah, 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 blah. Use the Frankie in that one. And then
it might be as simple. It might be as simple as this. That's the guitar he had near him.
Yeah, right. It could be something simple as that. But I do think
be that simple. It could be that the 5150 could have been somewhere else, and that's the guitar he grabbed for the video.
Could be. Tom, I want to agree with you, Tom. I really, the romance part of me wants to agree with you, Tom.
I'd like to know what happened to that tiger skin sports jacket Eddie wore in the jump video.
Yeah, right.
That's
when I saw that, I'm like, forget that red leather jacket Michael Jackson's wearing. I want that.
That jacket's in a hard rock. In fact, the whole outfit is the jacket and the yellow and black pants. They're in a hard rock.
Wow.
Yeah. Keith Campbell, you have to agree to come on here and chat with us one night. You have been a huge contributor to this chat tonight.
Definitely.
You must accept an invitation to come on and hang with us one night.
Mm-hmm. Look, a lot of people don't know this, but in '82, before that beak Kramer neck went on that Frankie, there was a Strat neck on it with 22 frets. It was the first Kramer neck that Kramer gave him for his guitar. It was the word Kramer was on the headstock for a little while for some photo shoots, and then he sanded that name off. So if you see pictures of a Strat headstock neck with 22 frets on that guitar, there are a few of him doing his famous jump with that neck on it. You'll see that in this area, the wood grain is a lot lighter. It's from him sanding the Kramer name off of it.
I wonder if that neck was on the guitar when he recorded "Beat It," because when he's going up at the end of the "Beat It" solo, if it was a 21 fret neck, it wouldn't be that smooth going up because he's basically going like an octave from the 12th to the.
It had that neck, yeah. It had that because it was '82. It had that neck on it.
It had to have the 22 fret.
But the reason why he took the Kramer decal off is because he didn't actually have a contract with Kramer at the time. They were romancing him. They gave him some stuff, but he didn't have a contract, so he didn't want their name on the guitar. And it's also the same reason why on the purple Kramer that he used with Alan Holsworth, he had black tape over the headstock.
Right.
He didn't have a contract yet.
Randy, I agree with you, Randy. Speaking of someone that needs to accept an invitation and come and hang, Randy, you need to do the same thing. I agree with you. I was just thinking that I was just thinking that I guess my line of thinking, Randy, was that if the Frankie was still his number one, it makes sense that it would be his go-to to grab for that video shoot. I guess that was my line of thinking.
Well, here, in 2007, when he made the Frankie replica, he on video says that the Frankenstein is still his number one baby. It always was his number one baby. It's the guitar that made him famous.
Yeah, I understand that, but I think that he was, Eddie was also a bit of a salesman.
He's got to sell it. That's right.
And he's got to sell it. And you know what? And the reason, he couldn't do a 5150 replica because he couldn't do the headstock. You know what I mean? That's ultimately what it came down to. That's why there never was one, or else he would have done that too. So,
well, there was one, and I'm holding it in my hands. When the first time I went to see Paul Unkert, I had the body. Me and Paul were on either side of the body that was going to be the replica of that guitar for Eddie. Eddie sent the body to Paul for him to make another neck for. But and it was going to wait until he could get the trademark for the headstock. But it never came to fruition. I have the picture here, and if anyone goes back deep enough in my Facebook photos, you'll see the picture of me and Paul Unkert holding this Kramer body painted like the 5150 guitar with the numbers on it, and that is absolutely the only official replica that was going to be Eddie Van Halen's, waiting for Paul Unkert to make a neck for it.
What year was that around that he did that?
I want to say it was, well, you know what? I don't remember what year I interviewed Paul Unkert on that other show. I don't remember. Maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Okay,
so it was recent. Gotcha.
Yeah. So it was just before we did that interview with him that myself and Anthony Sujazi, who is a good friend of ours, he took the ride with me out there, and I think there might be pictures of Anthony holding that body too, but the main pictures are me and Paul with the body, and Anthony took that photo of us.
Yeah, I gotta check that out.
And for a long time, I had to keep that hush hush. I couldn't say anything about it because you know how Eddie was, with non-disclosure. So now that he's gone, I don't see a problem with saying anything about it. But yeah, I couldn't say anything for the longest time about that.
Yeah, I mean, I do think though that he knew he could produce the Frankenstein one, so and it was his baby for the longest time. But I think he equally liked the 5150 guitar because Chris Gill, when I asked Chris and Brad the other night, they said Eddie had it right there, and because he said it still sounds great. He still loved that guitar, the Kramer 5150. So
and he did model the Ernie Ball neck after the 5150, right?
Yes, it was his favorite neck. If you read the Guitar Aficionado article, it tells you there's pictures of each one of the guitars, and it tells you a little blurb coming from Eddie Van Halen. Now, he said that the reason why he gravitated towards the 5150 guitar is because it was a workhorse. It never failed. That guitar never failed. It was always. He did. He drove that guitar into the ground. I have video of him throwing it to his tech and it hitting the ground. I have video of him throwing it at Alex and it hitting the ground and not breaking. This is all stuff. That guitar took a beating and kept on ticking. It was really.
It's like a vagina, Dave. You just can't break it.
This video has now been. It's going to be deleted after. I'm going to delete the video after this live thing.
I mean, I challenge anyone to dispute what I just said.
Oh, man.
On that note, I love you all, John. Sorry to blow up your spot, but I figured I wanted to
Oh, I'm glad you're here, buddy.
and jump in and see you. It's been a long time, man. And Ben, always good to see you. Ty, Dave, that goes without saying.
Yeah.
And,
Pete, good to see you, Pete. We're
Good
so
to see you,
happy
Pete.
that you joined us.
absolutely, guys. I gotta.
Frank and Beans doing any gigs this year? What's going on? Before you head out?
So, we have a new lead singer. It just happens to be Mike Oliva. He's doing double duty. He's the lead singer of Van Hagar, and he's now singing with us. So we broke the ice with him late in August,
Nice.
and yeah, now it's just learn mode. We're just trying to build up the set. He's got pipes, so now I can start introducing Soundgarden and all that stuff in. So you know, we're just beefing up the catalog, and hopefully we'll be out there, late fall, early winter, and hopefully this COVID thing starts to calm down, and we'll do what we got to do. But yeah, hopefully we get at least one more in before the end of the year.
Awesome.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, very cool.
But guys, thanks for everything. And
Pete, it's been great seeing you. You
Yeah,
and
it's good
I
to
will
see you, Pete.
we'll have a talk in the next few days.
absolutely.
And everyone in the chat, we have 40 people watching us right now. If guys and girls, if you like what we do up here, please come and visit us. Subscribe to the channel, click that bell, and click always so that you know when you'll get the notifications when we come on. This show happens because of you guys. I have fun doing it, but you guys are what keep us doing this. So if you like what you see and what you hear, please join us at 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock
Please.
every Thursday night. 8 o'clock every Thursday night. We go from 8 to 10 or thereabouts. And it's always going to be a good show, and you guys make it even better. So thank you all. And John, maybe next time we'll have a conversation. We'll have to have you on again so we can actually, talk.
Yeah, we got John on here for the Van Halen, but man, he's just deep dive. He's like, "Oh, you want to talk about this band? Here's a crap ton of knowledge about that."
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at.
Forge Locker,
That's
just on
awesome.
that band.
that's
not,
really
not
awesome.
not because Pete talks so goddamn much, but because all we spoke about was Van Halen. I want to get to know more about you.
Electric Mistress pedal. Remember that.
Oh,
I will remember that.
Actually, you go on YouTube. Just type in the Andy Summers Electric Mistress pedal, and the guy does a great demo of it on there. And it's that sound. You'll hear it. You'll be like, "Wow, that's cool."
Yep.
So
So, would you be inclined to do a part 2?
absolutely, you let me know when.
We'll get you on, and Pete, we'll have you on for another show too if you want to come on.
Again, you have to clear that kind of arrangement through me. I own the rights to John Conklin. That's where I'm going
And the name.
anywhere without my blessing, so to speak.
we'll have our people reach out to your people.
It was a good time tonight,
Well,
guys.
I could just as well say that I have all the rights to a stealth Wolfgang, but I don't say that.
Shh. All right, guys. Listen, have a great night. Thanks for everything.
All right, Pete.
Take care,
Thank you,
Pete.
Pete.
Yeah.
Take good care.
Absolutely. Be good, guys.
And then there were 4.
Yeah.
Well, again, this was a lot of fun tonight. If you guys want to go on for 5 more minutes or so, we could do that.
John,
But,
I want to ask you one more question. When you were preparing for the interview again, which is just terrific, and you can find this interview on Fruitcake Tony's channel, Halenville. The episode premiered live this past Sunday night with Chris Gill and Brad Talinsky. If you haven't seen this interview, please go see this. It's a real deep dive into this new book. You're a Van Halen historian. What did you, after reading the book, what did you walk away with that was really new?
I don't know if there was so much that there were new stuff, but it reinforced a lot of thoughts that I had about him as a person and things like
speculation.
that. Yeah, exactly. It reinforced that. I mean, he was a nice guy, deep down a normal guy, and I think that he, for as famous as he was and well known, I don't think he he knew a lot of people, had a lot of acquaintances. I don't think he had a lot of very, very close friends. I think it was his brother, Matt Bruck, his son, and his wife, Janie at the time, the second wife. I think that was his inner circle, really, just that group right there. And it was a very tight knit, type of group around him. But and you know what? Ultimately, he was the same kid that used to sit on the end of his bed and play guitar. It just migrated to a mansion in the Hollywood Hills with a recording studio in the backyard, a clubhouse, and that's where he did the same thing as he did in his bedroom. He did there, just played his guitar and stuff like that. So, and I just think it's a great story. It could be made into a film someday because it has all the elements that you need of a good film, and the dark times and the redemption part of the story before he passed away, so it really could be made into a film, and this book, like I said, this book is a benchmark book. I don't think that the family is really interested in doing any kind of biography on him, authorized type of biography on him. So this is probably the closest thing that we're really going to get. And you know what? And it's his own words it's him speaking in the book. I said I likened it to like a train ride. I said on there because it's like it starts in Holland, goes to Pasadena and beyond, and all the stops along the way when the key points in his life, Eddie jumps in, and in his own words from their 50 plus hours of interviews, he talks about these things, these formative years and things that made him who he was, what made him tick. By the end of the book, you kind of get that picture, a fuller picture of him. And, for all of us that didn't really know him that well, maybe shook his hands and talked to him for a minute or two. This, you kind of, when you're done, you feel like you knew the guy a bit better, what made him tick. So I think it's really a well done book, and it's a must read for every Van Halen fan. I really believe that, put it on.
Looking forward to reading it.
Yeah, I think it's going to do real well too, and I hope that it hits the bestseller list up there, because it would be nice to have his name on a top 10 list, of some sort. I think it would
sure would.
Yeah, so
yeah, sure would.
Yeah, so I think it's going to do pretty well, though. I really do. I think it's going to surprise people. So, but yeah. There's a few books coming out, but I think they're all going to do pretty well. We had Michael Christopher on last night. He's got a book coming out too, and he said that the pre-sale, the first run, is already sold out. So they had to push the book back, or at least they had a week, so they could try to print more copies.
Wow.
So it just goes to show you there's a hunger out there for people who want to read about Eddie Van Halen and his life and things like that. So
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah. But I appreciate you having me on.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure, and
yeah, it's been great.
Thank you for being so generous with your time.
Get a chance and you have Spotify or Apple Music or any of those things, or even YouTube. I did a tribute song I did for Eddie. I wrote on there, and it's on there. And if you listen to the whole thing, you'll see some Van Halen Easter eggs in there and stuff like that. I actually, it's Alex's drums that I sampled, the kick and the snare, and I built the drum track out of Alex's actual drums from the For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge album. So a lot of people say, wow, it sounds like that album. It is actually the drums. I was able to sample the snare, and I built it beat by beat, the drum track on there with the kick and the snare samples from that. So
wow. Is that the song that you did at the head of the Halen
no,
bill?
That's it. I used them on there too, but I did a whole full, original song. You got to hear the other one. It's pretty cool. But in the song, you'll hear, I actually throw a little bit of a lick from the Hot for Teacher guitar solo in the guitar solo on this one, and just the elephant noises and things like that in there. And and at the very end of the song, the tom roll is actually the tom roll from Top Jimmy. I actually spliced that in there. You wouldn't know it. It's going to sound very familiar to you, but if you get a chance, just check it out. I
can't wait to hear it.
It's called Surfs Up Eddie. It's kind of positive. It ends on a positive note. I didn't want to make it very minor key or depressing or anything, but
so where can you find that?
It's on Spotify, Pandora, Apple Music, iTunes, all of those other streaming services, and it's also on YouTube. If you look under, I think it's John Conk 1, You go on there, and there's a little video on there with it on there too. But yeah,
Awesome.
check it out. You know, it was fun to do.
Can't wait to
Great.
check that out, John.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah. So, but I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. It was a great time.
Hang with us
Sure.
just real quick so we can say goodbye backstage. And everyone in the chat, thank you so much for joining us again on a Thursday night. We're so glad that you're here.
Absolutely. Ben, you got anything to say?
Demo out tomorrow on the Soleil Fuzz from LPD Pedals. This gets released email only 1 week from today. And also we are taking pre-orders on the second run of my signature pedal, the Nice Drive A, which will be out next month because we're waiting on the bloody parts. Part supplying has been an issue with COVID. So I'm just going to throw a link in the chat if you want to sign up for it. I think we're halfway sold out already. So here we are. That's
Awesome.
it. That's that. Thanks, Ty. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, John. Great meeting you. Man, he's smart. Makes me
Nice
look
too.
like an idiot.
Nice.
I had a blast,
So-
though.
Yeah. So on behalf of our guest, John Conklin, and my partners in crime, Ben Coombs and Ty Price, I want to say good night, and we'll see you next Thursday. By the way, Ty will not be with us next Thursday. He will be in the field watching the Rolling Stones.
We expect you to tune in with the background. You know, you just turn your back to the stage, Ty. You can. I'm sure you'll hear us fine,
We'll get
Yeah.
a selfie. Get a selfie with
Right.
Nick and Keith.
and that won't get us with the YouTube algorithm at all, right?
Not
Are
a
you
bit.
playing Stones music? No, that's the Stones playing the Stones music. We're not playing the lick.
Yeah, Fred and Barney playing the Stones. All right, everyone. Have a great night. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week.